So there's different ways that you can create walls for your sprites. You can do it with if statements, and you can also do it with just colliders, which is nice because you can essentially just create sprites along the borders and then just make sure that your character, in this case, is set to collide, just like you did with your obstacles. So in this case, what you guys should already have is that anytime your character comes into contact with your obstacle, mine is the spinner, that it either bounces off or collides, so it can't go behind it or in front of it. So it's the same idea for the walls. You can either set it to collide or set it to bounce off. But there's only a few lines of code for each one of these, but there is animations we need to create. So I go to draw your own. I make a vertical and horizontal line. So the horizontal line will be our animation for our top and bottom wall. Let's see, there's the resize. So the width of this needs to be 400, but the height only needs to be, it's something small, so I just choose 5. And then click resize. I like to fill it so I can see it, but you don't have to, it's still a sprite. And then same thing for a vertical line. Go to resize. The width on this one doesn't need to be big. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready. So now we have a top and bottom wall and then a left and right wall. But I actually need to call those in, so I'm going to create these sprites. Okay, so if I'm creating the top wall, that's what I'll call it. You can really call it whatever you want, of course. So the top wall, it needs to start here, and we can adjust it if we need to, but it does start in the corner at 0, 0, and the top wall's animation was our horizontal line. Okay, so it looks like we don't have that right quite yet. So notice it's stopping at 200, and that's because we need the X position to be actually in the middle. There we go. So now that you can see that it goes all the way across. If you don't want to be able to see your wall, since I know mine is 5 pixels thick, I can do -5 as my starting position, and now I can't see it. Okay, but in order for my sprite to bounce off of that, or collide, whichever you choose, I like when it's bouncy. So character, and we're going to have that bounce off of the top wall. So let's make sure, boop, sends it back down. Okay, if you're worried about it getting caught in the middle here, so see what happens if I do that, gets stuck, you can just have it be collide instead. So if you want to do character, wall, so we'll get rid of this for now. Okay, so it's not that it bounces off, but it can't go above it right now. I'm repeatedly pressing my up button. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same idea, but with my left wall, and then you guys will be able to figure out how to do that with, there we go, with the top, with the, excuse me, the bottom and the right. Okay, so I'm going to do the left wall, and I'll use my vertical line on this one. Okay, this, again, let's try putting it at the top since we know it has to go down. So at 0, 0, and let's, wrong one, 0, 0, and let's see where that puts our line. Okay, the same problems we had last time. It's because the sprite's X and Y position depend on the center of that sprite. So here we're going to have 200, not 1200, 200 for the Y position. Okay, and if you want that off the screen, remember our sprites for those were 5 pixels thick, so if we put that 5 off the screen, you won't be able to see it. And again, if we're wanting it to collide or bounce off, we do have to add that into the draw loop.
It's supposed to set right there.
Start at left. Oops. Character collide. Oh, I put left. Sorry, guys. When you're creating these variable names, just be careful to stay away from variable names that seems like they would be used. Like left, that sounds like it could be a command, so I'm changing it to left wall. Okay, so now I'm pressing up and left and I can't get anywhere. If you want it to be bouncier, just change collide to bounce off. Okay, and then you guys can figure out how to do the bottom and right based on that.